those about the rock. What up, everybody? Welcome to the Cowboys Beat Live. I have one of my best friends in the entire world with me tonight, and he's going to be with me pretty much every time we go live. Mr. Sarush, how are we doing?
Man, dude, I am chilling. I'm chilling. I appreciate it. I am excited to get started, bro. I've been looking forward to this, man. This is going to be fun, and I'm kind of ready to argue with you a little bit, but it's hard. It's hard because you come at me with too many different angles, and sometimes it's too quick. So I'm just like, all right, let me see if I can slow down this pace a little bit. We'll figure this shit out.
Or should I say, hold up. What the motherfucker?
that is your slogan, man. That is definitely your damn catchphrase for sure. And what's funny is I put that shit together just now. I was like, how does this motherfucker know about Y2J coming out to this? And I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. When the millennium was turning over, I almost had everybody mad because he had come out like right before New Year's. And everybody was at the party that we was at. Like, I was young, man. Shit. How old was I then? I think I was like 12 when that shit went down. Bro, everybody's kind of gathered around the TV, and then they're like, "Wait a minute, what the fuck is it? This ain't it." And then, bro, they're changing the channel. They were about to be pissed because they thought they were about to miss fucking New Year's countdown over some Y2J bullshit. I'm in the back like, "Hey, it's happening."
Hey, man, look. All right, we got some Cowboys football to talk about. I made a video today. I posted it on TikTok. And I said that I don't believe the Cowboys did enough this offseason to, consider them to be Super Bowl champions. I mean, Super Bowl contenders, whatever way you want to put it. I just don't think they did enough. And, my thing is, at the end of the day, I say this all the time. I've been saying this ever really since the Pickens trade and the draft, to be honest with you, because I think their draft was really good. And I think the Pickens trade was really good. I think they did okay in free agency. My thing has been, I'm not worried about this team winning 10, 11, even 12 games. I'm not worried about that. I think I'm very confident that they will be able to do that. I feel like Dak Prescott is a floor-raising quarterback, just like I think all of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league are floor raisers. In my personal opinion, I feel like when you have Dak Prescott as your quarterback, you have a very solid floor. I think that your floor with Dak Prescott is 10 wins. Now, I get it. Last season, they were not on pace for 10 wins with Dak Prescott. I ultimately think they would have turned some things around and maybe they would have gotten around that number. But there were so many things that went wrong with the Cowboys last year that made me say, look, it didn't matter if Dak Prescott was healthy for the entire season. It didn't matter. A lot of things there. I just don't feel like their team had enough, I guess you could say, injury luck to really say like, hey, this is a team that could get you about 10 wins. But I feel like Dak Prescott's a good floor raiser. But I just look at this team and I say, I just don't think they did enough for me to really look at them and say it's different than years in the past.
It's not different in years in the past in the aspect of what they did, right? They didn't really make a big splash move. The big move was Pickens, right? That was the big move. But even that move in itself, there's doubters in that move. People weren't just clamoring around for Pickens. The attitude problem, and the history of the Steelers giving up wide receivers at the right time, and every time they'd ever given one up, it is what it. You see a downturn in that guy's career. Ultimately, with what we did, we added a true 1A to this team. Is what I believe is what you got with George Pickens, with the radius of his catch, with what he is able to give you downfield, with the perfect complement that he is to CeeDee Lamb. It's a completely different aspect to the offense entirely. The reason I'm much happier this year than last year is because they did do a multitude of things, and they went out and got themselves another Jonathan Hankins like they did now with Solomon Thomas, right? They went and got another veteran to fill that plug, to be that anchor next to Oso Digizua inside. And you're hoping that with Matt Eberflus at the helm as a defensive coordinator, which he's had very good success with in the past, that he's gonna turn this defense around. But I get what you're saying. We went to the bargain basement to go fix the run defense that's been a problem for the last 4 years. I get that part of it. But the problem that I'm having is I don't think that it's going to be as big of a hindrance, especially if my offense is literally averaging 35 points a game. How much running are you going to be able to do against me anyway? Am I going to be able to exploit you by getting out in front of you with this offense? And my pass rush is going to be much better this year, I'm expecting, than last year.
Well, and ultimately, here's the thing. I think Dak Prescott's going to have a big year. I think the team's going to win a lot of games. I think that there's going to be a lot of good things about this Cowboys team this upcoming year. Just like there were a lot of good things in 2023, in 2022, in 2021. My thing is the difference between I think the Cowboys being a legitimate Super Bowl contender and just being one of these teams that are really good in the regular season that, puts up a lot of points is that I just don't think that they're built to play playoff football at the current moment. Look, I don't care what quarterback it is. It could be Patrick Mahomes. It could be Josh Allen. You can go prime Aaron Rodgers, prime Tom Brady, prime Peyton Manning, prime Joe Montana. It doesn't matter what quarterback it is. You're going to have a bad game or a game where you don't play that well in the playoffs. What separates quarterbacks that get the job done and ones that don't is that their teams were just flat out better. I cannot recall many playoff runs where the quarterback just played out of his mind for 4 games in a row. It just doesn't usually happen like that. There's going to be a game in a playoff run where the quarterback doesn't play that well and the team around them needs to play better, which is the problem that I have with the whole wins or quarterback stat thing. It's like, no, the team needs to play very well. If Dak Prescott is the only problem on this football team, I feel great about this football team. And as a matter of fact, I feel like this team would actually have gone to a conference championship, potentially a Super Bowl, if Dak Prescott was their only problem. And that's my thing, right? I want to see this team be dominant on the ground. So that way you have teams making legitimate decisions of, okay, what do we do here? Do we go all in to try and stop the run, or do we play, lighter boxes because we're afraid that we're going to get our teeth kicked in with their passing attack? That's where I say, okay, now the Cowboys are different. If they get, a run game that can lean on people, that can run the ball when they want to run the ball, that to me is the difference between this team being a really good regular season team that, could potentially make some things happen in the postseason and them being a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
I feel like with what you have on defense, I know it's crazy to think, but I know everybody's concern is mainly with the run game when it comes to the defense. But I feel like if you have success on the offense on the ground, that other side of it is going to get that help that it needs to be successful. This offense is going to have to carry this team, in my opinion. It's not going to come through the defense like we've seen in years past, with the emergence of Micah Parsons, in terms of being able to just completely shut teams down. I don't know if that's the defense that you're going to get that we've seen like in 2023 and 21 with this defense just completely locking it down for the other side. I don't know if that's what you're going to get. I think the team has to live and breathe through the offense. And the biggest question mark for me, it's not so much the run defense, it's the run game. Because for me, this has to be a tempo team. You have to be able to control the clock for this team to be successful. I can't feed through the defense like I have in years past. It has to run through the offense, in my opinion. And really, that's what Dak Prescott is going to be expected to do this late in his career, man. I get it that I don't want it all to fall on his shoulders, and it can't, because you need a team to be able to win in January into February and to be able to carry you through that gauntlet that is the playoffs. But at the end of the day, the way this team is structured now, I expect the offense to carry the load. I expect the offense to be able to do that part of it and to be able to get that and to be able to compensate for what we might lack in that run defense.
Yeah, no. Well, here's my thing about this, right? If you're relying on this offense to be the team's run defense, pretty much, hey, if you put up a bunch of points, teams are going to stop running the ball. I can't get on board with that. I cannot live right knowing that, because that's what this team has done in 2021, 2022, and 2023. That's what I'm saying. Like, what makes this year different than those years? It was the same thing where, the offense put up a bunch of points, and because of that, teams weren't able to consistently dominate you on the ground on a week-to-week basis. There are individual performances that you can pick out that you say, yeah, the Bills dominated you on the ground. The Cardinals dominated you on the ground. But it's not one of those things where it's like week by week, teams are consistently able to do that, because they have to take into account that when their defense is giving up a bunch of points, they got to stop running the football. And that's ultimately my thing. I just want this team to be able to stop the run because they just play good run defense, compared to stopping the run because Dak Prescott's playing lights out and they're putting up a bunch of points.
If they could be in the middle of the pack on run defense, which I believe this run defense can turn out to be with the production that you'll get on the other side.
Sure.
Is that enough? Is that enough?
Is it enough?
And not only that, is it enough on this side of the bracket? Because let's not forget who we have to go through on this side of the bracket. It's essentially what? If the Niners come back to life, which I don't know if they will or not, the Rams, the Eagles, and then who?
So let me ask you this question.
The Lions?
This is the follow-up I would have to that question. Are they in the top half of run defense? Are they middle of the pack in run defense because they're playing good run defense? Or are they middle of the pack in run defense because the offense is putting up a bunch of points? Let me ask you that question. Because if the answer to that question is they're middle of the pack because they're legitimately playing good run defense, then I feel great about this defense. I just need them to be average against the run, because if they're average against the run, I want more, just because I feel like this defense can get to another level. Like this defense with Micah Parsons.
Here's my only issue. I feel like
Hold on. Give me 1 second. Like this defense with Micah Parsons and Fowler and Ezeraku and Odighizuwa and all the pass rushers they have, like, man, the only thing that's separating this team, I feel like, from being arguably the best defense in the league and a defense that can transcend years in the NFL, is, man, if they just really played the crap out of the run and got teams into more passing situations and you let those pass rushers loose, dude, I'm telling you, man, like this defense would be an exceptional defense, especially because if you put teams in passing situations more, you already have corners that are going to hawk the ball. Like you have corners that are going to make plays on the ball and get you turnovers. That's what I'm saying. Like that to me is just the most annoying part of this all, where I just say, like, man, if they would just tighten up some things with the run defense, I really think that this team and this defense would just be on another level.
Here's the thing though. For me right now, it just remains to be seen. Because everybody's out on Mozzie Smith. You're out on Mozzie Smith. I myself, it's like, dude, it's put up.
I'm not 100% out, but I'm close.
It's tough. It's tough to really kind of get behind him right now, just because there's so many different things that have gone on with Mozzie Smith. And he's just been getting shoved around at this level, which is really strange, because when he came into the league, I remember how strong he was when he came in the league. I remember that exercise that he did where he moved the plates essentially together from that awkward ass position, and it like just feats of strength from this guy. But you see him coming to the NFL and he's continuously on skates. But I feel like they've doubled down on the mistake, and it's just like it doesn't matter at this point. You have to live with it and hope that with what you get with Matt Eberflus can fix it. Because I think you're going to get more production out of the linebacker room with what you're going to see with Matt Eberflus anyway. That's how he's going to play against the run. That's how it's going to come. That's how it's going to come from his scheme to begin with. So I'm just hoping that he can kind of hold up and do what he's supposed to do, and that Solomon Thomas can kind of just show him the way. That's all, because they're built very similarly, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Solomon Thomas is more, so he's a converted defensive end, so he's a little bit on the smaller side for defensive tackles. I actually do think Solomon Thomas plays the run like pretty well, but he is a smaller defensive tackle, which is like, that's what Matt Eberflus wants. He wants smaller defensive tackles that are going to attack and get upfield, because his philosophy is tackles for loss, right? Like if it's first down and they're running the ball, and they get a tackle for a loss for 3 yards. Well, now it's 2nd and 13. You're in a passing situation there. You know what I'm saying? And the way he kind of looks at it is like, hey, if they're in 2nd and 13, now that's 2 opportunities to be able to, rush the passer. And the more opportunities you have to rush the passer with this defensive line, I think the better. My only thing, when you talk about Mazi Smith, here's really what happened with Mazi Smith. Mazi Smith came into the NFL. He was stronger than everybody at the University of Michigan. I hate saying that name, but I got to be professional here. He was stronger than everybody on that level. And then he came into the NFL and everybody else is strong. All these offensive linemen are strong. They're stronger than pretty much everybody he played against in college. Actually, I'd say 98% of them are stronger than 99% of them are stronger than the people that they played in college. Obviously, you have your, exceptions, but so like what really happened with Mazi is the flaws that he had in his game in college got magnified because of the fact that when you're in the NFL, you can't just overcompensate with just being stronger than the guy across from you. Because when you're a rookie playing in the NFL, or you're like in those first 3 years here, it's a little difficult because of the difference in skill and the difference in strength from offensive linemen in college and offensive linemen in the NFL. And I just feel like with Mazi Smith, look,
I just want to say this: if this team is able to be successful on first down as a defense, and they're continuously finding themselves in down and distances of 8 or more on 2nd and 3rd down, 7 or more on 2nd and 3rd down, you're looking at a defense that can very much carry the weight for what it needs to do for this offense to be successful.
And here's the thing, right? I do agree with that, but like my big problem is I just want these units. I want the offense to be great because it's a great offense. I want this defense to be great because it's a great defense. Complementary football sounds great, but at the end of the day, if you're relying on one side of the ball to make the other side of the ball better, not just because like, hey, we have a great offense, and because of our great defense getting us the ball, our offense is even better. That is what it is. But, like my thing with the offense was really good. And because the offense was able to make plays, the defense was put in better situations because they're better at rushing the passer. Now, granted, that defense did help the offense. But again, I just prefer that those units are just good individually because they're really good units. That to me is complementary football, not, hey, you have a weakness on offense, and because the defense is able to mask it up, you're good, and vice versa. Like, hey, you have this weakness on defense, but because we do something on offense that masks it up, we're good. I just want this team to be good individually. I want this team to be a good offense and a good defense.
I mean, at the end of the day, we lost a lot of pieces. There's a lot of different things that had to be replaced on this team that are still going through the motions, and we're still kind of putting it together. There's a lot of different question marks, especially for guys coming back, guys going away. We don't know who's going to be where until further notice in a lot of different areas, from the secondary to up front. It's just we don't know what it's going to end up panning out to be. But I don't know. I'm still very optimistic for what I have in front of me. The only thing that I'm kind of wary about is, am I in that loophole of that same insanity of, we're going to have this porous run defense and it's going to be the same thing come January, and we can't. It's just another crushing thing to look at, and I get that fear, but I still feel like with the way the NFC is structured and the way the NFL can shake out at any given moment, with this offense, it's possible to make a run. And it has to be possible with what you consider you're about to be paying a lot of these players in terms of Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Parsons, and eventually George Pickens if he has the year that we're expecting him to have.
For sure. Yeah, and look, here's my thing. Can the Cowboys win the NFC this upcoming year? They could, but I'm not picking them to do that. And not only that, I think that a lot of things are going to have to work in their favor for them to get that done. And I get that that's kind of the purpose with the way the Cowboys build their roster, which it's like, hey, we're going to be around the rim. We're going to be in the picture. And if things fall our way, then we're going to be there to take advantage of it. Here's the problem. It's been 30 years. Things have not fallen your way. Stop relying on potential luck to do what you got to do.
Then I guess
best team. Hold up. Be the best team in the NFC, not because of luck, not because of anything, but because you're the best team in the NFC. Stop relying on other teams to make mistakes to get you to where you need to be, because I feel like that's how they build this roster. They build this roster so that they're competitive every single year, but they're never the best of the best. And unfortunately, they don't have the luck of the Philadelphia Eagles, where they get into the playoffs and the Minnesota Vikings get upset in round one and they get to play the Giants at home. And then they get to play a San Francisco team without their quarterback. The Cowboys don't have that type of luck. You want to know what type of luck they get? They're the number one seed, and they get Aaron Rodgers in AT&T Stadium. You want to know what luck the Cowboys get? They go to Green Bay, and they damn near beat them, and there's a fumble by DeMarco Murray, and there's a drop ball by Des Bryant. You want to know the luck they have? That is the luck they have. They have the type of luck where they got to play the hottest team in the NFL pretty much going into the playoffs.
I just realized what you did. Dez did not drop that ball. Continue.
No, but you get what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying, but he didn't drop that damn ball. Go ahead.
But that's the thing, right? Like 2021, they get to play arguably the hottest team in the NFL that year going into the playoffs in San Francisco. That's the draw they get. They don't get the Arizona Cardinals that were depleted by the time they played them. They don't get the luck that the Rams get, where they get to play the Cardinals in round one of the playoffs, and then round two they play a Bucs team that was ripped to shreds, and then they play the San Francisco 49ers, and they probably should have lost that game if the safety drops or catches an interception that's right in his breadbasket. That's not the type of luck that the Cowboys have. It is what it is. Build a team to where we look at that and you say that's not a team that anybody else wants to fuck with.
But I guess at this point, though, with what they had in availability, because you understand the cap, who are you grabbing other than who they grabbed? Who could a D tackle? Who are we taking?
I would have picked up Poona Ford from the Los Angeles Rams. I believe he's with the Los Angeles Rams now, if I'm not mistaken.
But he didn't leave, right? He stayed with them.
No. I believe he was on the Chargers and then he went to the Rams, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was on the Chargers and then he went to the Rams. So he pretty much stayed in LA. He just got, a different type of contract.
Okay, and why him?
I would have because he's a legitimate run stopping defensive tackle. And my thing with the Mazi Smith thing is that, like, the way I would have handled the Mazi Smith situation is that if he develops and he blossoms into the player that we want him to be, that's great. Kind of like they did his rookie season. But the thing is, going into his second year, he did not show enough for you to say, we're good on trying to add a potential starter to this team. We're going to rely on Mozzie Smith to be our starting one technique. He did not show enough his rookie season for you to have that type of faith. And one thing that I'm just completely done with, I don't want to hear it anymore. Well, this scheme is going to make him better. Not just Mozzie Smith. That's not exclusive to Mozzie Smith. That is inclusive to everybody on the roster, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. I'm done with relying on scheme for these players to get better. I'm done with that. Get better players on your football team. That's the way I look at that. Mozzie Smith is not a starting defensive tackle in the NFL. He's not good enough to be a starting defensive tackle in the NFL. He has not shown that to this point. And it's just so aggravating because you cannot look me in the face and seriously tell me that you're trying to contend for a Super Bowl and then trot Mozzie Smith out there to be your starting defensive tackle week 1. He's just not good enough. And that's why I would have signed Poona Ford over the offseason because, hey, you want to know what? I look at the Eagles, I think last year did this very well. Nolan Smith did not show anything his rookie season. He looked like a potential bust. So what the Eagles did was they signed Bryce Huff. Now I get it. That move didn't work. But you want to know what happened? You know, your general manager, Nico Harrison, said this for the Mavericks. Fortune favors the bold. They went out and they signed Bryce Huff. Didn't work out. Nolan Smith took that next step. He developed into the player they wanted him to develop into. And that's the way I look at this when it comes to the whole Mozzie Smith thing. Bring in a legitimate starter, and if he develops into the player you want him to develop into, that's great. If not, then it is what it is. You still have a quality starting defensive tackle.
Why you got to bring up Nico Harris, man?
Because I actually did like that quote. That's why.
Because I
did like that quote.
He's full of shit. I don't give a shit what he said. That is ridiculous. He's not a philosopher. I don't want to hear that nonsense from Nico Harris in his infinite wisdom with his whole 2.8% chance of getting the first round pick. You're not fooling anybody, Nico.
And not only that, because we're pretty much done with the show here. What I loved about that whole thing. So if you guys are here for Cowboys talk, if you could come stay bullshit, because for the next few minutes, we're just gonna bullshit here. What I loved about that whole situation was the Dallas Mavericks literally tried to not get into the NBA draft lottery. They took every measure to not get into the NBA draft lottery, and they got into the NBA draft lottery. And then he went up there and he said, "Fortune favors the bold." You didn't want to be there in the first place. You wanted to be competitive.
He wanted a title now. I thought you wanted a title now.
Exactly.
And it just reeks of just BS to me. It just reeks of it. It is the most blatant sign of just, I'm just going to dangle this carrot in front of you and expect you to believe it's a freaking cotton candy or something. Like
he's pissing on you and he's telling you it's raining.
It's basic. That's exactly what he's doing. And it's driving me crazy because, dude, it's asinine. It's asinine. I don't know what really happened that day, but you're never going to convince me that this wasn't foul play. That this wasn't a money grab for ratings, put Luka in the Lakers, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're never going to convince me this wasn't a money grab. And it's like, here you go, Dallas. You gave us Luka for the Lakers. We'll give you Cooper Flag. Enjoy.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for the show. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we will see you on the next show. Till then, peace.
Later.